Everybody thinks buying a home is just a monthly mortgage and a down payment. That's not even close. There are costs in Colorado Springs that blindside a lot of buyers all the time. And if you don't know about them, they can really wreck your budget. Let's go ahead and break these down. Hi, I'm Charles Beaton here with Beaton Brothers Property Experts located in the beautiful Colorado Springs, Colorado. You can see the smoke behind me. We have last time I checked, an 8,000 acre fire just south of Colorado Springs by Fort Carson, right off of 115, called the 24 fire. And it has been smoking out our town for about a week. Whatever direction the wind is blowing, the worse it is, but our mountain views are really not present today. Section number 1, the big lie that buyers believe. Buyers come to me thinking, I've got my down payment, I'm good to go. No, you're not. Because nobody tells you about the real costs that show up after you go under contract and after you move in. And this is where people get in trouble. Section number 2, closing costs. Let's go over the real talk. Yes, it exists, but here's the part that people don't understand. You have to have your closing costs paid at the time of the closing by the buyers or by the sellers. The common myth is, hey, let's just roll it into closing. That is not an actual thing. Those are true costs that have to be paid by the buyer or the seller, and they do exist. Typically in our market here in Colorado Springs, we're seeing anywhere from 1% to 3%, depending on a lot of factors, depending on the taxes of the area that the home is located in. If there's a lender involved, whatever the lender's fees are to close that loan, whatever they're charging to get the rate down. Homeowner's insurance quote that you have, if it's really high, your closing cost is going to be much higher. For example, there are high fire areas, not in Colorado Springs, weirdly. I haven't found one high fire area in Colorado Springs. However, in other communities such as Conifer, Evergreen, Golden, I've had homes go under contract and close that were in high fire areas. Whereas a average quote, I would say, is about $3,000 for a homeowner's insurance policy annually. Up there, I've seen them starting off at $6,500. So yes, your closing costs will dramatically increase when you have homeowner's insurance rates that are that high. We talked about the lender fees. We talked about a homeowner's insurance. Now we have title fees. So we use Chicago Title right now. Their title closing fee is $340. They do vary by lender. You're going to have a title policy that is going to be upwards of a couple $1,000s. That can vary by title agency as well. You're going to have prepaids. You're going to have taxes as well as the insurance that we just talked about. Is the community in an HOA? So a lot of those things all make up the closing cost. But here's the kicker. This is negotiable in our current market. I will tell you that in most of the offers that we've written in the last 24 months, better part of 2 to 3 years, we're getting closing costs covered by the sellers. Why? Because this is no longer a seller's market. We're a balanced market leaning towards a buyer's market. So we quite literally just got 3 homes under contract in the last 24 hours, 2 existing homes, 1 new build. The new build, it's a dirt start. They haven't even started doing a foundation yet, so there's not a whole lot of incentives when you do those when it comes to the builder. So we got $15,000 for that client. The house that we just got under contract about 30 minutes ago, we're getting $13,000 in seller concessions from that seller. The third house, it was a little bit more competitive, just a few days on the market. They had about 8 showings in a 24-hour period, I think it was, but we're still getting them $5,000 in closing costs, and we just went $5,000 over list price. So I will tell you, every single time, we're typically getting seller concessions to go towards the closing costs, or we're getting them completely covered. And you'll probably remember in a few of my other videos, depending on the home, depending on the days on market, depending on what the rates are, seller concessions can fluctuate. With new builds, they could be as high as, $30,000, $40,000. With existing homes, I mean, the highest I think that I've gotten was about $22,000 in seller concessions. And if your closing cost is only $10,000, they're covered. So everything that we just talked about, can disappear. Section number 3, the home inspection. Sometimes surprise costs here. However, we work with the best in the market. We use Jared Watkins with Top Choice Inspectors right now. There's a lot of great home inspectors out there, but we've been using him for years. He's the most affordable, and I think he does the best job. So inspection is where reality does hit. The sewer scope alone with our inspector, you're probably talking $125 to $150. That's quite literally where they take a camera, stick it down the sewer cleanout or a toilet in the home, and run it all the way out to the city tap. Because in Colorado and most states, you are responsible for your sewer line if it is on your property. That's something you probably want to find out before you close, the condition of your sewer line. And we make it pretty much mandatory for all of our clients to do a home inspection on a home. Why wouldn't you do it? If you're going to buy a $500,000 house, you wouldn't spend $600 on a home inspection. That doesn't make any sense to me. I will tell you that the home inspection produces the best ROI. However you want to look at it, you spend $600, you get a sewer line replaced, that is $6,000. So you're going to typically get a good ROI on your home inspection. So we highly recommend it. Radon gases, which again, I could probably do a whole nother video on this. I am not a certified radon technician, but I have been through hundreds and hundreds of radon installs with my clients. The radon mitigation systems, essentially just a fan that is on the exterior of the home, constantly running, sucking air from under the foundation and blowing it out over the house so that the radon gases bypass your house. And yes, Colorado has higher radon levels. When you're living at 6,500 feet, I'm at 7,500 right now, radon levels tend to be a little bit higher. To put this in perspective, Europe doesn't even regulate this stuff. Canada, I believe their acceptable level is 14 picocuries per liter of air, whereas we are 4 picocuries per liter of air, according to the EPA here in the United States. So generally speaking, your home inspection is going to be an additional $600 to $700, depending on what you want to do. If you want to go crazy and start testing, the water for lead, and you want to start testing, for mold, and you want to do lead-based paint, yes, you can definitely spend thousands of dollars. However, for our clients that our home inspector typically does, includes the sewer scope, includes the home inspection, includes a radon test. And in that inspection, this guy's getting on the roof. He's going all the way around the house, testing all of the outlets, looking at the foundation, looking at the exterior. He's getting in the house, hitting every single electrical outlet. He is turning on the furnace, shooting all of the air ducts with a temperature gun to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, running the air conditioning, filling up the sinks and the tubs and draining them all at the same time, really stressing the house out. He does thermal imaging as well. I mean, you really get everything that you need out of that home inspection, in my opinion. One of the biggest issues that we see with the home inspection is you're going to find issues with every single house. I will do an inspection on a new build and we'll find 34 issues. There'll be broken roof tiles. There'll be a broken sewer line. It's rare, and new builds do have warranties, so not as big of an issue to not do an inspection. However, every other single situation, we highly recommend doing a home inspection. You're going to find stuff wrong with every single house, and I will tell you that every house has issues. And the older the home, because of the age, the more it's going to get lit up like a Christmas tree. We just showed about 30 homes in the last 5 days. We walked into homes that were built as early as the 1920s and as new as not even built yet or at frame and being in progress of being built. And I will tell you that the 1920s house, beautiful, love it, character, everything looks great, but it's going to get lit up like a Christmas tree. Odds are, if it hasn't had all the GFCIs installed or the AFCIs installed, if the panel hasn't been upgraded, if the roof hasn't been changed out, if the plumbing hasn't been changed out, I mean, you guys get it. The older the home, the higher amount of deficiencies that home is going to have, guaranteed almost every single time. With that being said, yes, new builds, you will still have anywhere from 5 to 15 to 20 deficiencies, where that home in the 1920s probably going to be pushing 100. Does that mean that they all need to be repaired? No, it does not. There are some things that absolutely do not need to be repaired. It's just something that the inspector wants the homeowner or the new homeowner to be aware of before they sign that dotted line and get that house. Section number 4, guys, let's talk about insurance just a little bit here. Again, full disclosure, I am not an insurance agent. I'm not licensed. However, I go through hundreds of insurance quotes with my clients. Not that I'm going over them line by line, but I'm giving them recommendations, and then they'll send the quote to my transaction coordinator. So of course I get to see them. I get to see what the prices are at the closing table. I see what their premiums are, see, pretty much everything except for the thick packet of what their coverage actually is, which is usually very generic. Right, wrong, and different. That's just how I feel. This one is sneaky, and it's getting worse. Homeowners insurance in the state of Colorado. It has been a topic of conversation for years. Insurance companies are leaving the state. There's a lot of different reasons. Number one, I'm going to say hail claims. I will tell you, for a guy that's lived in a lot of different states here in the United States, Tennessee, Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota, Iowa, North Dakota, Georgia, between hockey and military, I've been in a lot of places. I will tell you, this is the most expensive state by far when it comes to insurance. I'm going to start with auto insurance. I had mentioned this in one of my other videos, but when I was living in Georgia and then we moved here to Colorado, I think that we were paying about $182 a month for full coverage on 2 vehicles. Those same vehicles, when we moved here and we changed over our insurance, jumped up to about $400. So you're going to pay twice as much. Reason being, there's been quite a bit of hailstorms since 2018, specifically 2018. We had 2 record-breaking, catastrophic, animal-killing, vehicle-destroying events here. There were hail strikes near Cheyenne Mountain that were the size of a softball. Can you imagine, folks? It was killing animals at the zoo. It was, just destroying, absolutely destroying the city, vehicles and houses, all of those insurance claims. I don't know what the billions of dollars amount was, but I know that it was well over $1 billion just with one of those events. And then there was another one just a few months later. I was going through the home buying process myself, and a roof had just been put on as we were going through the contract, as we were under contract, and then another hailstorm hit. So then they had to put on another one. It was just insane. Roofers were freaking everywhere. They had flyby roofers, your established roofers. Either way, you couldn't go down a street and look down without seeing 5 or 6 roofing crews just doing their thing. It was wild. Now, this is my personal opinion, not a professional opinion. We personally have not had any hail claims in the last 7 years, roughly. Yes, it's hailed, but it's been pea size. Nothing larger than a gumball. I will tell you that we haven't had enough, hail to have any damage, but it was pretty rough there. So I think that all the insurance companies have a little PTSD and all their, analysis on our town and our state. They're just like, it's not worth it. So they're pulling out. So yes, you are going to pay a premium. I've only come across, in thousands and thousands of homes every single year, about 1 or 2 homes that were not insurable because of a fire area. Typically, there is fire risk. I mentioned that earlier in the video. They say in El Paso County, there are a few pockets, but I have literally never gone under contract on a house and had any issue. Now, there was a catastrophic fire in Black Forest, which I'm actually looking at Black Forest right now. But I believe that was back in 2013. You can't see the mountain, but there was the Waldo Canyon fire. If I'm not mistaken, that was like back in 2011. So we have had some catastrophic fires. Have I seen anything catastrophic where neighborhoods were being burnt down in El Paso County, for that matter, since I've been here since 2018? No, I haven't. Now, I will tell you, in Teller County, over where Golden, whatever county that is, where Conifer and Evergreen and Golden are, that area, I know that there's some high fire areas. So it does exist. It's something you can easily find out before you even write an offer on a house. Just get with your real estate professional or give us a ring and we'll find out for you. And the reason these are important when we're talking about the fire and the hail and the high winds, your premiums are going to be more. And this is part of your closing costs. That's why we're talking about it. Now, there is way more upside to living in Colorado than just these few things. So I don't want to sound doom and gloom, but these are things that do inflate closing costs quite a bit. What gets people in trouble is before we're able to get a hold of them and they're budgeting $100 a month for their homeowner's insurance premium, which may be common in other areas, not Colorado, you get punched right in the gut. It is going to be at minimum, typically about $200, upwards of $400 per month to budget for that homeowner's insurance. Another question we get, do we have to have homeowner's insurance? If you have a mortgage, you do. Yes. Now, if you're a cash buyer, I think it'd be silly to not have at least some type of coverage. But as a homeowner with a mortgage on your property, you will be required, your lender will require you to have homeowner's insurance on your home. That is why it is part of an escrow. Typically for VA, they require 1 year upfront of that homeowner's insurance cost. And that is also part of your closing cost. Reason being, if you start defaulting on your loan, well, no matter what type of loan you have, if you start defaulting on the loan, your lender still has about 12 months left over in that escrow account to continue paying insurance on their investment. Section number 5, property taxes. Now, we talked about this a little bit, but I will tell you, out of all the places that I've lived, Colorado has the lowest property taxes. Did we see a dramatic spike in 2024? 100% we did. Reason being, we assess our taxes every odd year. And when they assessed those taxes for 2023, what did they do? They took the best 18 months that we've ever had in our real estate market here in Colorado Springs. I believe it was January 1st of 2021 all the way through June of 2022. And then they spiked up the taxes in 23, and we all really saw it. Now, with the median price going down and the leveling off of our market, taxes haven't really gone up since then. However, one of the things I love to talk about with clients is if they're coming from anywhere in the South, we'll call it Texas. Man, for our median price being $465,000 here in Colorado Springs, for $465,000 in Texas, I can get a 5,000 square foot mansion with an in-ground pool on 2 acres. Yes, but your property taxes are probably going to be like $15,000. Whereas, yes, in Colorado, our house prices are pretty high. But on that same house for $465,000, if it's an existing home, not in a new build area, you're probably looking at like $2,000 to $2,500 a year in taxes. Now, if it's a new build, you probably can double that. Probably going to be $4,500, $5,000. Now, with that being said, that directly affects your closing cost and directly affects your monthly payment. But we do have lower taxes here in the state of Colorado, which I love. Now, with all that being said, it doesn't mean that property taxes are nothing. We use mill levies here, so every neighborhood might be assessed a different mill levy. Then you times that by the assessed value, and that little equation gives you your assessed value. And then you go ahead and run your taxes off of that. So it's pretty intense when it comes to each house. You can figure out the Nats details of what your taxes are. I already talked about new builds versus resales. That is a dramatic difference. Now you have metro districts. Who here knows what a metro district is? I didn't know what it was when I moved here. I never even heard of a metro district. Well, in lieu of HOAs, we have metro districts. There is not one new build community that I'm aware of as a realtor that does not have either an HOA or a metro district. Now, they get real clever. The developer hires some company and it's a metro district, and now your taxes are inflated because they're throwing their HOA costs or whatever community costs are in that neighborhood into your taxes. So you're going to have a whole breakdown on the county assessor. Public knowledge, super easy. For example, I've got it pulled up right now. It just took me 5 seconds to look at this. So I'm looking at a house in the zip code of 80919 on Golden Hills Drive. Their taxing entity, El Paso County, it has the levy for all of the information. It has the contact phone number. But we're looking at, EPC Road and Bridge Share, Academy School District number 20. Pikes Peak Library. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that goes into your taxes, but you're going to have, a metro district in here. For example, El Paso County Conservation District. You're going to have all types of stuff, and it'll say, whatever metro district that neighborhood is in is going to be in there. The only way that you kind of get away from that is existing homes, because this is a new thing, metro districts. And if you have any more questions on a metro district or whatever it is, metro district is short for metropolitan district. Give us a call at Peyton Brothers and we will be able to explain it to you one-on-one, no problem. And the thing is, if you don't understand metro districts, you can get burned. Section number 6, maintenance. This is not a hidden cost. This is pretty common knowledge, in my opinion, but definitely something that I want to talk over. The key phrases here: no landlord anymore. You are the landlord. You have a furnace now. You have a roof. You have a water heater. You have an HVAC. Stuff will break. It's not if, it's when. Now, the reason I say this and talk about this, because everybody has this stuff across the country. You're at 6,500 feet. Guess what's working a little bit harder? Your furnace, right? And if you put a thick filter on there like you would if you were at sea level, your furnace is going to burn out much quicker. They are working way higher. The efficiency goes down. Think about an engine, right? We have this beautiful mountain right behind me that you can't see because it's hidden by the smoke. I don't know if you're able to see that or not, but electric vehicles do really well. Why? Because when you're going from 9,000 feet to 14,000, oxygen is less. That air temperature changes. Those things directly affect that engine. Same thing with our furnaces. Your roof, we just talked about hail, right? And if it's not hail, we are at a higher elevation. So you're going to have a really intense sun ray. Have you guys ever seen the vehicles where all the clear coat is just stripped off them? It looks like they've been sitting in the sun for 30 years. Well, here in Colorado, that can only take, a decade to happen. Think about what your roof does. It takes a beating, not to mention the hail and the high winds coupled with the intense sun. Roofs take a beating. Your water heater, not so much. I mean, there's a slightly different boiling point at elevation, but that's not going to really matter. But your water heater, if you don't have it properly serviced and drained every other year and get all the sediment out, or if you have a well with no filters and it's hard water, or you have a newer community that's still going through the growing pains of providing water to that community, I mean, your water heater is going to take a hit. And then we also talked about HVAC. So you have your furnace, but then you also have your air conditioning unit that sits outside in that sun. These things, I've seen some that were 10 years old and they looked like they were, off of a barracks building from World War II. They're just, they're rusted out, beat up. The high winds and the sun will hit those pretty hard. Now, I've mentioned that we're at a high elevation, but we really are. We're at a high desert. You're going to have a little bit more dust as well. So it's something that you're going to see. This is something that I always preach to my clients when, we're house hunting, for example. Murphy's Law is always in effect. It doesn't mean that bad things are going to happen. It means if it can happen, it will happen. If you love a house, but you decide to take a week to think about it, and you go to write an offer and then they receive another offer. Once you have 2 or more offers on a house, all deals go out of the window. It's not a thing anymore, right? Same thing with home ownership, everything that we just talked about, Murphy's Law. Section number 7, utilities and lifestyle creep. When you go from a 900 square foot apartment to a 3,500 square foot house, guess what happens? You're going to have electric bills a little bit higher. You're going to have a gas bill a little bit higher. You're going to have a water bill a little bit higher. And nobody warns you about this stuff. Now, this is something that I absolutely geek out about. You will know in my other videos, I've talked about this extensively when it comes to a new build home versus an existing home and efficient homes versus non-efficient homes. It is a huge deal, guys. Now, I will tell you that Colorado Springs has this beautiful company called Colorado Springs Utility. It is a nonprofit, the cheapest utilities I've ever seen. And guess what? You're only paying one bill for electric, water, and gas. I absolutely love it. On an average home, about 3,000 square feet, let's say, an older home, let's say the 70s to the early 2000s, your bills are probably, unless you're running your AC 24/7, probably going to be $200 or less for all of those things included. Even on our new builds that we're seeing that are 5,000, 7,000 square feet, still probably under $2,000 or $200 a month. Probably still under $200 a month. Now, I will say that if you push outside of the Colorado Springs city limits, yes, CSU is going to be there in pockets, but you're going to start running into different companies like Mountain View Electric, Black Hills Energy for gas. Then you will have separate bills, and they're still extremely affordable. But that is something that we always want to warn you about. Budget a couple $100 a month just for your utilities on your home. Just like the taxes, guess what? Our utilities are much more affordable, and I absolutely love it. So with all this being said, the hidden cost of buying a house that nobody tells you about, It's true. Sometimes these aren't even talked about. Sometimes you just go under contract and you're like, oh, I guess I have to bring $13,000 to closing. Well, we always like to let our clients know ahead of time, go over every single thing. Now, if you're looking to buy a home here in Colorado Springs, it is one of the best financial moves that you can make, buying a house. But it's only if you go into it with your eyes open. My job and my team's job here with Peyton Brothers Property Experts is to make sure that my clients or our clients do not get surprised by any of this. We always go over all of this stuff in our consultations right up front. Now, if you're thinking about buying a house here in Colorado Springs, reach out to us. I will walk you through the real numbers myself before you ever make a decision. Here at Peyton Brothers Property Experts, we're putting out videos every single week for our current homeowners and our future homeowners. We want you guys to be as educated as possible. The biggest mistake that you guys can make is not buying a home here in Colorado Springs. If you know that you're going to be here for at least 2 to 3 years or more. If you have to rent, that's one thing, but if you're able to buy, definitely buy. If you liked what you saw and heard today in our video, please do like, subscribe, comment if I missed anything. I went over several things. I think there might be a few more hanging out there, but I didn't want to make a 45-minute video. I got a little long-winded, but we hit the high points for sure. And these are things that you may not know about. And if your real estate professional is not hitting these things during the showing process or your buyer consultation, be sure to ask those questions. You want to have all of these things answered before you go ahead and sign that dotted line. And thank you so much for hanging out here with us tonight. I hope that you really got something out of it. I have a lot of ideas for future videos coming up, so please do stay tuned, and we are going to continue putting these videos out for you guys weekly. Have a great evening. This is Charles Peyton here with Peyton Brothers Property Experts.